Okay, everybody, today is a very, very exciting day for me, at least. Um, I've been working on building my own little robot to draw pictures on a piece of paper. He doesn't have to draw pictures, I could just move him all over the room, and he'll be like a little toy car, but this one has the option to draw. And I've been working on a frame. It's all one piece, you'll notice. And I have some main goals for this frame. The first goal is I am considering releasing this as an open source project for a lot of people to use. And it's pretty much oriented towards the idea that a lot of children may want to use this when they're learning about robotics. With that said, the first thing I want to make sure is that there's not that many additional parts, in that there's not a lot of stuff that you need to screw together. There are optional screws for two of the motors, but they're not necessarily required. They're just to give you more stability, or I don't know, something. The other thing is, I am very concerned about the use of plastic and the time it takes to print out. I understand that plastic might be limited supply. Maybe a whole school, not a whole school, but maybe a whole maker space may have one spool of plastic and 10 kids. The plastic has to last for all of the children to be able to make their own robots. So that's one concern I have. Another concern is, which is closely related, is time. I'm under the impression that a lot of maker spaces starting out, or just even if a school has one of these 3D printers, they might just only have one. So I'm concerned about how long it's going to take to print out one of these. There's the idea that maybe you'll have 10 kids printing this out. So if one of these takes 3 hours, you're waiting at least a day to print out everybody's robot frame. So those are some of the goals I'm looking at. Very easy assembly, less parts, quick print time, not much plastic. And a lot of the parts I'm using are very, very common. So where should I start? This is a first print. This is a prototype. There are some things I did intentionally on here with the full knowledge that this is pretty much a throwaway piece. This is not the final. And one of the main things on this is that I made a lot of the slots to be too big. And by that I mean, if I slide this circuit board in here, it's very loose. It's not snug. And the main reason for that is to be able to at least put these into this, and then I can have a better estimation of how much I need to change to make that fairly snug. If I couldn't put it in there at all, then I'd just be making wild guesses with no reference, really. So, before I go on, there is another robot that I downloaded a lot of plans for, and this is the initial robot I was going to build. I think this is just a drawbot. It's been on the internet for a while, and you'll notice there's a lot of screws all over the place. There's a screw there, a screw there. The motors are screwed into a piece that's screwed into this. And this is pretty good. This is actually a very good drawbot from what I've seen. As long as you have all the parts, it's amazing. Go with it. I just don't have the parts, and I am very analytical, or I'm very hard on myself to make sure I produce the best thing that I can come up with. So this is part of what I think could be the best thing. There's some design elements. I'm trying to make sure there's a lot of circles or curves to make it more kind of attractive. And you'll notice there's actually a line. So there's a combination of hard edges and circles to hopefully appeal to anybody who's who may be inclined to appreciate that a bit more. Let's see. Let's start out with the battery pack. That was one of my biggest problems with the other robot, is the battery packs that I had that held 2 AA batteries were not compatible with these 2 screws here, which are for 2 AA batteries. So I decided, instead of going, well, that uses 4 AA batteries in all, there's 2 and 2, I've decided to go with some ultrafires, and I made a battery pack on the front of this thing. Now, I could make a battery pack holder for 4 batteries, for 4 AA's, and I would just make this wider and thinner. I just have a preference for this right now. I could make various models of this for whatever battery pack you want, so that's not a big issue. But you'll notice it's very wobbly, but gravity keeps it in. I'll make it a little bit more snug, but I would like the ability to hold this upside down without this falling out, if I can. One of the things you'll also notice is there's nothing in the middle, so this kind of squeezes. So that's going to help me make this a bit more snug. You're going to notice that in a couple places this can squeeze, which there you'll notice slots here. So this just fits right there. There you go. Or wait, let me put it this way. This wire is getting in the way, so that's another thing I have to consider. There we go. So if I make this too tight, and I'll just squeeze it a little bit if I can. Oh man, I'm not having luck, am I? I mean, you'll notice, I think you can notice that, you can see it kind of squeezes that area. That area is just way too big. So that's just something I have to go back to the drawing board and fix it up. Yeah, so the battery pack. One of the things I'm looking at is, not only is it loose, that's a given, but I'm using too much material. And by that, I'm talking about what is actually needed to keep this battery in place. Do I need the entire front end here, or maybe I can just get away with just the top here? So I just need something for the battery to sit on, and something at the very top just to hold the battery in place from moving around. So when I talk about you know, trying to reduce the amount of plastic and time that I use, that's pretty much what I'm talking about. So I do have quite a bit of ideas regarding that. Okay, so the other problem I'm having is the batteries are very heavy. I mean, me holding this is very light. It doesn't feel heavy. But compared to the entire robot, it moves the center of gravity to about somewhere around there. Right? Oh wow. Okay, so if anybody doesn't know about center of gravity, it's pretty much where the frame can sit without moving either way. Alright, let's talk about the servo motor. So this is a Drawbot, and we have a pen, and the pen goes down the middle, right there. And one of the things I was looking at is you can see this whole cylinder here, which is wasting a lot of plastic. You don't need all of that plastic to hold a pen in place. With this, I just have 2 points of contact, right there and right there. And then the other thing you'll notice is there's an arc, and really the arc is this is really how the frame stays rigid and in the right area. Is I have a hole. It's almost like a circle that goes around. So that's an important design element to make sure that this stays rigid. So the pen goes there, and this is from the Drawbot. So this is a little too big. This is a little, the holes here are a little too big. But this collar sits, and it should be very, very snug for the pen. And that's because the servo, that little arm rotates and lifts that collar up and down. And I'll just show you where he sits. Here we go. And that's the servo, and that's the collar. Now you'll notice there's a few issues. This collar is very, very far away from the servo. And there's 2 things I could do about that. One of the things is I could make this collar set up so that it has a piece of plastic that goes down far enough that the arm can hit it when it rotates. The other thing is maybe I want to put the collar on the inside, and I'll show you what I'm talking about there. And hey, look at that, the collar is now on the inside of the robot. So that's what I'm talking about. I'll get to that when I get to it. How about that? So let me just put the servo in here for now. This is a stepper motor, and this is a very special motor. I think most people are familiar with these DC motors, which are in like radio controlled cars and whatnot. These, you give them power and they just spin. This has 5 different wires. This has 2 wires. All these wires go to an individual magnet that help this axle rotate in a specific direction. And I think you can go like, you can tell it, hey, rotate 20 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise. And this guy has different magnets that activate so that it'll move in that direction. These are very sensitive. You can't just hook electricity up to them and hope that they move. So I have a driver board that came with it, and I think the LEDs light up based on what magnets actually loading up. But here's the brains. This is a motor driver, and you send him a command that says, hey, I want to move forward, and he'll figure out how to do that. Then you have power that comes in over here, and everything's happy. These stepper motors come in to the side here. They just slide up in there. Again, I have to make this much more snug because right now he'll just fall. He'll fall out. You'll see I have 2 arcs, and they're meant to hit that blue piece up there to prevent it from turning. It looks like I do need to move the motor back further against the frame because there's just way too much space there, and I need to move these arcs down a little bit and make sure they come out farther so that they hit the motor. Alright, give me a second. Pieces are falling out, so I don't want that to happen if kids start building this thing. Here is the driver, and the driver just slips in over here like so. Oh. I'll have to figure out what to do about all of these wires coming out everywhere. That's not exactly my concern with version 1.0. 2.0 will handle that. The first version is just to get this working with some of the rules that I imposed upon myself. All right, so you're starting to see the body forming over the frame. Here we go. And then I'll just put in another motor over here. And I'll put the driver over here. Oh, somehow it's not wanting to stay in place. Let's see. Maybe if I do this. Alright, that looks fine. I'm not having a good time with this. Okay, how about, what if we just crisscross them? That sounds like what they are happier with. There we go. Yeah, I really have to look at making these snug. Alright, so that's pretty much the robot. And I could put the pen down here just to give an example, and here we'll have a collar. And that's what the robot looks like. Now, there is the Arduino. And this is the brains of the robot. This tells the robot, let's move forward, or let's turn. And right now I have a little tray that I haven't printed out, but it sits on top of these two boards. And then this goes into that tray, and then you'll have the wires coming from this guy everywhere else. And that's pretty much the whole thing. It's very compact. It's got a bit of weight to it. I'll tell you that. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about getting this actually finished up. I have gone through a lot of design ideas to actually come up with this. This is after quite a few days of working out plans, and I've actually posted to Facebook some of the different designs I had. I initially started out, I mocked up this motor and this board into a program called Tinkercad, and you'll find that on the internet. It's a web page. Very simple to move objects around and design stuff. All you need is a free account, and it just works. You don't have to pay for it, and you can share everything, or yeah, you can share everything with the community on Tinkercad, but it'll also have a feature that you can put it on Thingiverse, which is pretty cool because everybody pretty much goes to Thingiverse when they look for things like this. Yeah, so I recommend that if you're interested in this kind of stuff, go to Tinkercad and get familiar with how to build 3D stuff. I've used other programs before, but Tinkercad pretty much does everything that I need to do. And because it's web-based, I can do it from any computer. I don't have to I don't have to worry about files or whatnot. And it's easier to copy things and share them with other people. What else is there? I think that's about it. Stay tuned because you're going to see a lot more of this. This is actually quite impressive with what a 3D printer can do. This is at the heart of designing prototypes, and then you look at what doesn't work, what does work, and then you design another prototype. Once you have a final product, hey, maybe you can run with that and go to production with something with more quality. But a 3D printer gets you something tangible that you can visually see and interact with for low cost. Yeah, I could never make this out of wood. This would take so long. But when you talk about a 3D printer, a 3D printer is so much faster than wood. And I think that's pretty much what a 3D printer has kind of replaced, is the time it takes to make models out of wood, or cutting plexiglass or whatnot. It's filling a niche that's really needed. All right, I think I'm gonna sign off with that, and go from there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and you'll see me around again.